Sâkihitowin Awâsis dishnika shan fami pe gosken tapnaska deo megwan sagaw apidaw gosisan pile clan kere de reviedi le land. So my Michif name is Sâkihitowin Awâsis, and my English name is Courtney. Welcome to call me by either. And yeah, I'm of the Michif and Miswag Nation, or the people who govern themselves, Cultivate clan of the river. And yeah, I just wanted to start by acknowledging and giving thanks for the original caretakers of the land we're on, the Awândrog, and because I think that's a really important piece. And what I'm going to talk about today is actually how our voices and our actions collectively create the landscape, a layer over the land that we all exist in, whether it's socially, emotionally, spiritually. So I think it's important to you know, honor the people that were here before us, that protected the earth, so we can continue to do the work that we're doing today. Yeah, so we're all creating this landscape right now, right? But some of us may come to this with the idea that we want to create a safer space, that we want to create an anti-colonial space, that we want to participate in decolonization or different forms of liberation, animal liberation, but with our beings. And the problem is that colonization and other oppressive systems that are inherently linked to colonialism degrade our relationships. So degrade our relationship to the land, the water, the animal beings, and each other, right? Even ourselves, how we treat ourselves is subverted and degraded by colonialism. And everyone is colonized, right? I heard someone say once that, you know, white people have just been colonized longer, right? We're all indigenous from somewhere, and we all have this decolonizing work to do. So this disconnection, it's caused by clear things that we can point to, you know? So we've been talking a lot today about the capitalist mega projects, such as the tar sands, and how they're furthering industrial genocide that is going on this land, and seeking to destroy all that's sacred. So the colonial landscape, what's that actually comprised of? A lot of different things, you know, the police, violence, financial institutions, but it's also caused by narratives, different stories, often myths that we tell ourselves and that we actually, you know, regurgitate to each other as well, and start to believe on a collective society level. So most of the time these take place in the mainstream media, and the issue is they're not relatable to us. They don't encapsulate our feelings of exploitation or oppression. Instead, they actually perpetuate and justify ongoing genocide. And part of this is actually the primacy we give to written word over spoken word, right? There is an oral tradition of storytelling on this land since time immemorial. And that should be of greater value than the foreign system of the written word that, you know, we see dominate today. So I wanted to acknowledge that as well, because I think that spoken word helps create spaces for stories that don't fit into the dominant discourse and are invisibilized by colonial society. So to me, the spoken word in all of its forms, and other arts as well, have the potential to be healing, empowering, and confrontational. So to explore this, I'm going to share a few poems today. And this first one touches on a creature in different Anishinaabe and Algonquin legends. Yeah, I'm sorry if I stepped on that.
No, that's cool. I was trying to be discreet.
That's impossible with me. So I'm wondering if anyone knows what a Wendigo is, or who Wendigo is.
I think I do. I think it's like an evil being. I think like an evil spirit. Did you have a monster?
Yeah.
Terrible thing.
Terrible thing. So a lot of people associate that word to like cannibals, but I think
yeah, that's right.
it's a little off.
Spirit.
Yeah, so they don't really like, well, I guess they could eat people, but I think the real danger in this realm is that they eat spirits.
Bad soggy. Bad soggy.
Oh, like Zabe. Yeah. Oh, I've never heard that before. I just got chills. He said bad Zabe. Zabe.
What's Zabe?
Bigfoot?
Bigfoot.
Oh, I think, yeah, so the contemporary Wendigo is the corporations.
Exactly, yeah. So the corporations and Stephen Harper, CEO of Endangered, what's his name? Monk. All these people, you know, they're eating the spirits. We're actually at risk of losing our spirit or having it deteriorated in this realm. So that's why part of our work is to take care of each other, to take care of the earth and the animal beings. Yeah, so I'll start with this one. I think it's called Silence. Silence is a war crime, freedom intertwined with jail time. Words are weapons, set or signed. Violence, a thought crime. Do you know how you've been wronged is right? War is waged against you whether or not you fight. For more than with what Wendigo deceive us, abhorred by how we are who police us. Peace is an offense, Canada colonial conquest, corruption past and present tense, revolution sense. I actually missed a part, so I'm going to go back because I know that we have an Algonquin woman in the room and it resonates with me. Okay. Silence is a war crime, freedom intertwined with jail time. Words are weapons, set or signed. Violence, a thought crime. Do you know how you've been wronged is right? War is waged against you whether or not you fight. For more than with what Wendigo deceive us, abhorred by how we are who police us. From storming Parliament, taking back the hill, it's Algonquin territory, and always will be. See further than voting can take us. Breathe free, only we are who can make us. Peace is an offense, Canada colonial conquest, corruption past and present tense, revolution sense.
Wow.
Sorry. Yes, everything I'll be performing today is mine. Yeah, so now I'm feeling like, okay, I'm getting into it. I'm gonna do this. So I'm hoping that we can think about today how artists and activists navigate this tension caused by colonial society. So this state that we're in of not being able to see parts of ourselves reflected in the world around us, and not feeling like we have a meaningful role in the universe. And there are, like I said, clear causes of this oppression and isolation, namely colonialism and white supremacy, and all the other oppressions that go with that. So heteronormativity, sexism. This marker. So what I think is really going on is that there's a war of ideas going on right now, which is really important because they're the foundations of our actions. So this idea that kind of is inherent in the colonial landscape is, like I said, one of white supremacy. So this was a foreign system that was imposed on Indigenous people on this land, and it was a system of power that deemed, who had access to the wage labor force, power and control over resources, power and decision making. Basically, everything that affects the people on the earth on this land was dominated by European men, right? So, followed by European women. So I was thinking in the car on the way here, I was just reflecting on the fact that, when did white women get the right to vote? 1929? Yeah. When did Native women receive the right to vote? 60, 68, I think. So this is almost a, what, 50-year difference, give or take. So we were not represented in feminist movements at their inception, okay? And that's because of this system of power. So European men, European women, Native men, Native women, two spirits. And of course, this system of domination also applies to the earth. The earth, all her animal beings, and her peoples. Indigenous people who maintain traditions of their connection to the land are the most impacted by destructive projects, right? And that's because of this system of power. Alternatively, a way of, actually organizing our thoughts and letting that inform how we treat and interact with each other is a circle, which we see also in our medicine wheel teachings. And in this wheel, everyone is part of this wheel, and when we sit in a circle, you're seeing eye to eye with everyone in that circle. You're on the same level as them. It's fair-handed and inherently more equal and horizontal than a vertical organization. So the function, I think, of spoken word can have, doesn't always, but can have in our movements, is to help us live more authentic, deeply connected, and meaningful lives by actually, dismantling these harmful ideas that we base our action on and creating indigenous-led and inspired ways of actually building from the ground up. So to do this, I think it helps because spoken word forces us to be more honest with ourselves and each other, about the systems of power and violence that we are participating in daily, because that's unavoidable. We are all connected to this system of power. We're perpetuating it. It's impacting us, but we don't really reflect on, every dollar I spend nowadays, and is this going towards bombing in Gaza, right? I can't even feel good about, the ways I'm feeding myself, because they're inherently problematic. And art helps elucidate these ideas because they're so entrenched in us that, it can be really difficult to actually discuss them earnestly. And spoken word provides a way of expressing that reality and understanding the root causes of it in a way that, is less likely to make us emotionally shut down and actually feels really cathartic and inspiring in a way of connecting with each other. And to do that, I think we first have to understand, or start to understand, who we are and where we came from. So this isn't something that you're going to find on TV, obviously, right? I think it's something that you have to look for. You have to look for it in the streets. You have to look for it in the breath of your comrade. You have to look for it in yourself. And, it's going to be difficult. And it is very difficult. I'm sure many of us have, been on lifelong decolonization paths if we haven't just started recently, and it is going to be a lifelong process. We need to be cognizant of that so we don't burn out and we don't blame ourselves for not, making as many gains in decolonizing as we would like to, because it's not a contest and it is a lot of work and we shouldn't kid ourselves. So this next piece that I have, I had the opportunity to get it published in an amazing Native youth grassroots zine called Kimwan. It is raining in the Plains Cree language. And it's written in 4 parts. It's called Dismantling, which means a way of life. And it's all about water. Important part to know. Oh, the 4 parts are separated by the sound chimok, which is like the Michif word for splash, but it implies dead weight hitting water. You can hear it, right? Like chimok, chimok. And so I like to when I'm saying chimok, I like to picture the fall of capitalism. But I hope you enjoy it. Embodied knowledge has never been idle. Living incarnate, movement vital. Water of the womb that became you. Machine screws becoming loose with truth. Stir waves of pensive silence. Learn original place names. Won't slander land in compliance with colonial maps that were made of melancholic mechanics. In colonial schools with stolen siblings studying manic Roman script dynamics. We are truth, and we come speaking quietly from where we all can dream of a direction and choices, guidance of ancestral voices whispering prophecy. Between talk about the roots in the pot, brewing new broth, stretching into next week because of those who speak their truth. 7 years before us, they were thinking of you. Do my words make you scream? This is the sound of the unseen at ease. Chimuk, do you know what I mean? All the spirits are asking me, why are we living so violently? More than anyone could ever be to property. It's obscene what we're doing to the earth, humanity. Do you hear me? The 5-0 keep flying red and white ideology for puppets profiting from poison and a fork-tongue apology. It hasn't stopped since contact. I am the progeny of these attacks on land sovereignty. My ancestors were evicted from our own water body, torn from the land. Our identity does not rest upon discovery. We have responsibilities to our children's children. How do you carry your water? Don't you wonder whose land this is to inherit that we leave in squalor? You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to remain violent. Oil turning swirling water into toxic tides, cancer reading people's lungs and insides. There are prayers to say for where tar pits are black holes when we're all downstream. The dead and diseased water, unable to feed good hearts, hands and minds as one from life forces of earth. Banksters better run. Chimuk, like frightened birds, words flee from the comforting sun as honestly as a stammering tongue that can finally scream what was once hushed. We are the future, the underbrush, simmering diminished visions in all imaginable ways, reawakened, reflective, and grateful these days, in part because we are living, part because of an inkling, in part because it's part of tradition. The earth will bear witness to our actions. There are ways to stop pipelines, postpone construction, prevent pollution, death and destruction. We have nothing to fear. Catch something cosmic appear from sweet-mouthed spirits, flow teachings, sincere and strong. Together we are reaching for what was never lost but has been found. What comes goes full circle around. Know now the revolution is near. The people of the seventh fire are here. Chimuk, hold each other's water in hand. This time, every spirit dances. Footsteps and stomps gather like birds beating wings. We close our eyes, listen, they sing. Sisters of the river that runs through our veins, bleeds into babies, carrying our names. When you come into yourself and ignite life like a flame, celebrate the creation of truths that remain. Peoples keeping the water, light sacred fires of the past that give us vision tomorrow to walk a good path. Powara, Chimok! I'm like, okay, I can just go sit down now. So what kind of inspired that piece is I wanted it to be like, you know, how people kind of come into an awareness and then get activated. I wanted to kind of like capture those stages. Like, I feel like, you know, beginning of my university career, I was angry. Like, I was really angry, and we carry that with us, right? I would interact with other people, and they're gonna pick that up, and that are animal beings too, right? And yeah, but at the same time, that's in some ways complementing the work of colonialism, because it's eating us inside. It's not healthy, and we're not going to be happy, and we need to do this work for our entire lives, which is like a very daunting task. So we need to take care of each other. But I think it's also important to, in that process, to that activation part. You know, that putting these ideas into action and actually doing the creator's work with the work that we're doing, with our hands and with our minds and with our mouths. So this idea that, you know, empathy and education don't absolve the value of actually dismantling these systems of oppression with direct action in whatever form that may be. I'm not going to get into that here, but obviously this is happening in one way at the Dam Line 9 blockade, happening right now, by actually taking up physical space strategically. And that can be done with spoken word too. You know, I've performed on blockades before, and you can actually, you know, that can complement the blockades, help bring people out, help keep the morale high. But also it can just be in sharing these ideas and inspiriting further action. You know, if one single person walks away from hearing a poem of mine and feels like, you know, I need to do something, they might not know what yet, but if they are, you know, heading in that direction, down that path of actually reclaiming their being, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to act in a good way, I could go sit down, like I said. But this next one is actually really new. I think maybe only Wolf's heard it. I've only performed it for like, oh no, I performed it at that workshop. So some people have got a sneak peek. Yeah, this was like a long time coming, this poem. Like, I was like, I don't know if other like people like feel like, you know, their work or their art is actually like already in them. Like, it's like even maybe existed outside of them and has been given to them, and then it's like, okay, now I have to manifest this. This is daunting. I know I have something to say. I know I have something important to create, but, you know, it doesn't always come out when we think it's going to come out. So this was like me waiting for Dam Line 9 to happen, essentially. And it's called The Beast. We saw where it had made a pathway, the early formation of colonial states, John A. Macdonald's high days, clearing the West with starvation, repressing the Métis nation, stealing land and language, pushing CN rail, the half-breed script, executing Riel. I'll say, we saw the beast coming before a track was laid, grass pressed into the earth like dew in the coming day, intrinsically imprinted, an ancestral memory. What our bodies feel, we can't necessarily see. How we read emotion, each other's energy, how the spirit songs support, this is where you're meant to be. That moment in Elsie, Ganastado, Ganasadage, Ipperwash, burnt church, Oji-Cree Métis. We are waiting for a stir silently, when a susurrus ahead signaled one to creep more closely. In distress, they explained, a toxic snake had slinked across all the tributaries of the Great Lakes. We asked our elders first and put our tobacco down. Then the creature's neck and its giant head we found. Then handmade bone blades sliced through its skin of scales into its long body as its blood fell to the ground. We went home proud-hearted and rested well. For some time, anxiety was quelled. But what we hadn't seen was the wiggling of the tail, and the waters were all poisoned. Families grew sick and pale. Warriors out-scout and revealed the beast had many heads. In all directions it expanded across Turtle Island. More warriors gathered in ceremony and feast. We mapped out the creature we had thought was deceased. Created together, together we speak. No Line 9, KXL, or Energy East. No Northern Gateway, no tar sands. It's time to kill the beast. So, what I hope with the art I create, and I see my friends create too, is that we're making connections between these seemingly isolated points of resistance, right? And I think like I Don't Know More did an amazing job of that, of making those connections between native and non-native communities. Like we all need water, water is life, but also between individual points of resistance. And because it's a powerful thing to realize that we're participating in something larger than ourselves for universal liberation. And when we're working for that, some of our responsibilities, I feel, are to speak for those that can't speak for themselves, you know, that are further excluded from these decision-making processes than we are already, and we are extremely disconnected from that, right? But those that, such as the waters, the fish, you know, the bears, deer, moose, all the animal beings. But I think it's also important to remember that, you know, the plants and animals continued to uphold their responsibilities to us and to the earth when we didn't, right? And we need to acknowledge that, and we need to be thankful for that. You know, they kept cleaning the water when we polluted it. They kept cleaning the forests and taking care of those forests. And in a lot of ways, I think are waiting for our return in a non-destructive way.
They just know what to do. They just know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Us humans are more pitiful.
We were so disconnected from our original instructions to take care of each other. But yeah, that knowledge is there, and that's a reminder every day for me when I see animals doing that work. Yeah. So acknowledging that, and in closing, I wanted to change gears a little bit. Because, you know, I'm sure people today talked about, when I was driving in circles for like 3 hours, I'm sure people talked about, you know, the animal nations and like the water nations. And so even in that context, colonialism, it has transnational impacts. And it does globally as well, right? What we're seeing happen in Palestine right now is early stages of colonialism that, you know, were based on the reserve system here that South Africa apartheid was based on. And what that means to me is that our resistance to colonialism also needs to be transnational. And if spoken word can effectively, transform the landscape that we're all part of by politicizing space, we'll be able to, confront these systems of power as opposed to compromising with systems of oppression. And we're really going to be strengthened collectively by upholding principles of decolonization and refusing to negotiate otherwise. And this will force our adversaries to confront larger issues as well, right? If we collectively agree on the fact that, we want to liberate stolen indigenous lands and that we want to, reclaim them, then we'll force our enemies to also address these things that are the actual roots of the oppression that we experience daily. By the way, this is my forever friend, Owen. It's been mildly disruptive. But this last piece was it was inspired by the Zapatista movement in Mexico, and they're a militant group of mostly Mayan indigenous people, but they're also non-native participants. And everyone, if you don't know who the Zapatistas are, you should just go over, read some of what they put out. They have a completely autonomous school, healthcare system, food production system. It's absolutely amazing what they've been able to do in 20 years. And language revitalization of the Mayan language, it's just absolutely incredible. And they've always been very clear about supporting the Palestinian people. And recently, last week, there was a Indigenous Peoples Conference held in Mexico City, organized by the Zapatista movement. And they, again, made it clear that they support the Indigenous peoples of Palestine, and that isn't wavering. I know I'm getting off topic. So this, I wrote this poem when recently their longtime spokesperson, Comandante Marcos, resigned, and the spokespeople are often really targeted in the community. So what they do is actually take up pseudonyms of fallen comrades. So on a recent raid of a Zapatista village, a teacher, Galeano, was killed, and their new spokesperson took up his name, Comandante Galeano, and he's the predecessor of Comandante Marcos. So I had a lot of feelings at this time, because it seems in a lot of ways like the end of the chapter. But I thought the way that they transitioned was just brilliant, and these people are do speak for their people and try to do that best collectively they know how. So this was based on Marcos signed off with 10 points, PS, and then so that's what this is based on. You'll see a bit more of my hip hop side come out. Step 1, okay, let's ride on the ground, get organized, rise up, warriors, one is up before dawn, or the gorillas, quietly we run with the guys of the bush, can't see us, what, where, everywhere, ubiquitous, fall through it too, it's time, come together, let's mobilize, no more toxins protruding off food, vulture truth you'll need inside, they feed in you. Who's eating, making the quick buck? Who's being cheated, ready to warrior up? On the 3, touche, Mock's gotta knock ground, night and day, fighting for freedom in the sun and rain, indignant life, no shame. If this is what hell's like, we say, drop the mask, the role you play. We're nude now, no dismay, ear to the words from the reflection of our face, to Marcos, praise, We'll carry you with us the rest of our days, in our breath, our sweat, and in our ways. Our united, indicted, lifelong fight. It's really dark in here. Galliano, bring the light.
Wet.
Woo!